Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So after this Raquel speech, it's difficult because I am not a social scientist, I'm just a marine geologist. But as I'm working with civil protection since at least 25 years, and we are working a lot, and so we have some experience about the marine geohazard. So what I will present you is our perspective in how this perception occurs among people and among institutions. So that is what we will go through, the points. So what are marine geohazards? I mean, for geologists it's rather silly, but for the others we have, even if it's not well known, but on the seafloor there are landslide, gravity flows, eruption of mud, and volcanic eruption, earthquakes, and most of these phenomena generate tsunamis. And so it is rather common to have feature, and it is one of the tasks of marine geology to study this kind of events. And some of them are fast, so that may generate tsunamis, for example. Others are much slower, but in any case, they can be very dangerous. And what I want to point out is that we are in time in which we are developing the economy on the marine realm, and so more and more the knowledge of this hazard and risk is important. So how frequent and how dangerous are they? It is difficult to make statistics. We have no time to do that, but let's just point some time. For example, if you just think about tsunamis in the Mediterranean region, we have large tsunamis more than once per century, so it's rather common. And if we talk about small tsunamis, that in any case are able to have several casualties, just talking about Italy Sensulato, or broadly speaking, because I will include also Nice, that is not Italian anymore. And so we had just in the last 50 years, we had 3 events in Nice, Gioia Tauro, and Stromboli. And one thing that is important to notice is that when we are talking about risk, we have a sort of a magnitude scale behavior of the natural process, so that the large process usually occurs less frequent. But you have also small process like this one, like this small landslide that may occur every years or every tens of years, for example, as in the Norwegian fjords. And talking about risk, the risk is also question of frequency. So it's not, is this product between frequency and magnitude. And so even small events, if they occur very repeatedly through time, they can be a real risk. So, how are they perceived? Just a few months ago, we ran a workshop in Istanbul, a CIESM workshop on the risk, and so we come out with some nice discussion. Many of us, or some of us, were in this meeting, and one of these graphs that we sorted out was this graph in which you have this sort of perception and recurrence. And so there is quite a nice agreement between the recurrence time and the perception. So those that are more frequent are more perceived by people, with some outliers that are interesting. For example, large earthquakes generate tsunamis that are very breaking news in the TV, so people fear even if they're very rare, or subsidence that is not perceived as a risk, even if it's a risk. However, after Raquel's speech, I cannot go through this. One important thing is that the perception doesn't always fit with the actual risk. And there is some risk that are not very well perceived, others that are over-perceived as risk. And so natural hazards probably are among those that are in which the risk, the actual risk is much higher than the perception. And if you want, I can also tell that even this meeting that we had in Istanbul, by the end, if we are scientists, we were doing a meeting about geohazard. And when we choose, or when they choose Istanbul as a venue, probably there were many factors that they were considering. So, and among these factors, the fact that Istanbul is one of the most dangerous towns in the Mediterranean Sea was not really taken so much in account, with as maybe other factors may have been taken in account. Or maybe CIESM wants us to have in the most risky place to feel the risk. So, but that is to say that that is really difficult to have the perception of a risk. As Raquel said, the northern Sicily is a seismic region, but now we don't feel really that something may happen now. Why today and why now? And it is interesting that the Civil Protection Department in Italy, they made a congress with more than 100 presentations on social science and for civil protection, and they come out with a lot of very interesting points, and they say that even people that experienced earthquake, so they have the experience of the earthquake, after 10 years, if you interview them and you ask them what are the hazard for their life, they will put car accident, cancer, and they will not consider earthquake as a risk, just after 10 years. And those are the people that experienced the earthquake. So there are a lot of bias, and I don't want to go through this because I'm not able, especially after Raquel. But what is important is that my impression from the personal point of view is that people will not, for natural risk, they will not behave correctly unless there is some rules that is setting up. As I wrote here, smoke, helmets, seatbelt, and many wrong behavior. We knew at that time that they were wrong, but we did nothing until a law arrived to force us to do the good behavior. Just a couple of case histories, very briefly. This is Gioia Tauro. In here we had a tsunami with a 5-meter high wave, and that destroyed part of the harbor. During its construction was an event very similar to the Nice airport event. And nowadays this harbor is one of the main transshipment harbor of the Mediterranean. The big ship coming from China, they discharge the containers that then are brought in Barcelona, Trieste, or whatever. And this harbor, as you see, is exactly at the canyon head. And the canyon head is maybe 50 meters from the beach here. And if you do repetitive multi-beam survey, you see that there is still some erosion going on. And we try to contact them. They have a budget of millions of euro. And yes, they were interested, they asked something, but they just didn't care. And it is a very risky situation. This is one of the main entry points for southern Italy. If a big earthquake arrives, all the supply of emergency affair will arrive through this harbor. But it is built in a very dangerous situation, and if a big earthquake arrives, it may collapse. And just in the opposite side of Calabria, in the Ionian Sea, this was this chemical plant that was charging the salt on ship. They have these piers to anchor the ship, and we were running for other reason, multi-beam surveys, and so we had bathymetry pre and post, and we observed a landslide that occurred that eliminated 2 of these piers, like this. It is the landslide scar, and that was one of the landslide, then another occurred here, and then they didn't even ask us for the data. They were just worried, so they closed the plant because it was seen as something that may happen, and there is no need to go deep into understanding what is the natural process behind that. So that is just to finish. With the civil protection, we ran a very successful project. We had a big funding of more than 5 million euro. We mapped all the geohazards around the Italian seas. And that was very fantastic. We had maps at a very detailed scale all around the Italian sea, a very good result. We also published a book just to distribute to the Coast Guard, to the local authorities, just to let them know, because they have a book, so they have to put somewhere that the marine geohazard exists. But even that, the project was suspended by the hand, because civil protection realized that even if they have the knowledge, they have no way to transfer this knowledge to rules, as they do, for example, for fires or for flood. They have some respect areas or some emergency plan. And marine geohazards are not within this hazard that are considered by the law. And that is especially true for the Mediterranean region, because maybe in the Northern Europe they're more flexible, they're more able to adjust their law to the knowledge. So even among the technical people, this perception is very low. And I pointed out some reason for that. So this marine geohazard are a very new stuff. The technology that is behind is rather new. It is not in the knowledge of the technical people, and we are in the Mediterranean, we're in a special part. So for example, at the European level, the marine geohazard in the Mediterranean are very different from the marine geohazard for, I don't know, for other part of Europe. And we have no standard way to transfer the knowledge to the decision makers. So it is always very slow process, this one. And also, at least in Italy, there is a very strong fragmentation of different competencies at the national level. So just to finish, I think that either from a personal point of view and from a technical point of view, there is a really strong need to push for strong law enforcement for marine geohazard in the Mediterranean.